This November, voters in Tucson will decide if it should become Arizona's first sanctuary city. It's an issue we've previously discussed with the leader of the movement. This week, we spoke to Tucson Police Chief Chris Magnus about how the initiative would impact his department.
We still have to comply with SB 1070. It is the law, but that the way we engage with members of our community, documented or otherwise, is fair, it's consistent, it protects their civil rights, it does not discourage people from reporting crimes or engaging with us. And I guess most importantly, it doesn't put us as a police department in the position of doing immigration enforcement. That's not our mission. It's not consistent with our vision. It's really not how we want to do policing in the city.
But there are instances where your officers do in fact interact with immigration authorities. Do you keep track of that?
We do, and they're very rare because our general orders have really set up some very tight parameters for what the circumstances are in which our police can and should interact with immigration authorities. But as a result of those general orders, which have been really very, very effective, I think, over the years, and we've modified them over time to even, I think, become better and better. But as a result of that, our contacts are so minimal. We average, if you look over the last 19, almost 20 months now, we've had less than one report on our part to immigration authorities a month. And even during that entire period, the number of times that Border Patrol has actually showed up at a scene that we're part of, it's been, I think, 3 times out of 20 months. So this is a very infrequent occurrence. There are some circumstances where it's almost unavoidable. There are actually times where people tell you that they are here in an unlawful way, but there are also circumstances where we're dealing with undocumented individuals who have committed some fairly serious crimes, and it's inevitable that that's going to be part of the discussion that follows. But the contexts are so few, and the circumstances are so unique and specified that a lot of what the discussion right now, it almost seems like we're talking about trying to find a solution to a non-existent problem.
Tucson Police does in fact receive federal dollars. Would those dollars be in jeopardy should Tucson become a sanctuary city?
They would be in serious jeopardy. We're talking as much as $12 million in grants, 26 police department positions could be impacted by this. Maybe even more in the future, and maybe even beyond law enforcement realm, because the Ninth Circuit even recently ruled that, for example, on COPS grants, those are the grants that fund police officer positions and a number of other things, that the federal government can consider localities' hostility towards working with them in some ways around immigration. Now, I think we cut a very fine line here, and we've done it in a very thoughtful way so that we do work with our federal partners when it comes to dealing with human trafficking, a very important concern when it comes to dealing with, for example, transnational gangs. Sometimes we have some very violent crimes here that are related to that. As it relates to drug trafficking, we're still dealing with very significant quantities of fentanyl and other drugs that are coming across the border. So it just makes sense to have a working relationship there, and we can say that. But if we were to be designated in this new way, I think we would be now crossing that line into territory that would almost be challenging the federal government to really question whether we would still be eligible for some of these grants and some of this funding.
For some people, this is an emotional topic. What do you want them to know, the voters, before they actually cast their vote on the day to figure out if Tucson needs to be a sanctuary city? What should they consider?
I think they need to become as educated as possible on this proposition. I think about as committed as any police chief in this country, frankly, to working and having a strong, positive relationship with our entire immigrant community. But what we're talking about here is an initiative that, if passed, would really, for example, require federal law enforcement agencies that we really need to work with to keep this community safe, to basically agree that they would not ever be party to any kind of immigration activity in the city of Tucson. And if they didn't sign that kind of MOU, that kind of memorandum of understanding, that would mean we would no longer be able to have any law enforcement operation or activity with those agencies. That, to me, would make all members of this community, would put all of us in a real position of jeopardy, because right now, for example, we work with the FBI very closely on a wide range of serious crimes, missing children cases, including some Isabella Celis case and others that are really have been significant. We would not be able to work with ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. That's the group that we, the federal agency that really helps us solve a lot of gun crimes and match ballistic evidence to handguns and shooters around the country. We would not be able to work with the U.S. Marshals, who we rely on to help us pick up some of our most wanted felons. I mean, the list goes on and on. These are important relationships, and I think I appreciate how, when you say this is an emotional issue, I get it. It is for me as well. But again, I think this is not the right solution to a complex set of problems, many of which are at, frankly, a state and national level well above Tucson. What it would do is it would put Tucson residents, I think, in real public safety jeopardy, and it also brings more attention to Tucson in a way that will probably invite, based on what's happened in other states, a more draconian approach from the state to immigration issues. So, I'm not here to tell anybody how to vote. People will have to make their own minds up about that. But this is a complex enough initiative that it's really worth people taking some time to learn as much as possible about it before they cast their vote.
Okay, Chief Magnus, thank you.
Thank you.